Unit 3, Lesson 5, Quadratics and factored form. The factored form of a quadratic relation or parabola looks like this. Okay? And we write it like this. So y equals a, which is a constant, okay, bracket, x minus r, close bracket, and x minus s in another bracket. Okay? In factored form, the key points that we can easily see are the x-intercepts. Okay, we can determine the zeros, or the x-intercepts. We call the x-intercepts and zeros the same thing. We also use the word roots as well. Um, by setting each factor, okay, the thing inside these brackets equal to 0. So here's an example. If I have y equals -3 times x minus 4 times 2x plus 9, I have that's my factored form. Now, the trick about x-intercepts is that the y value is equal to 0. So I'm going to set this y value equal to 0. So you see that here. So 0 equals everything that you see on the right side. Now, how do you get a 0, right? Like if you took, for example, two numbers, a times b, and you want to get 0, well, one of these numbers has to be 0, okay? So similarly, if you imagine instead of a and b, you had a bracket times another bracket equal to 0, one of these brackets has to be 0 in order to get a 0 product. So one of these brackets has to be 0, so either x minus 4 or 2x plus 9. So if you checked x minus 4, in order for that bracket to be 0, then x has to be equal to 4. So x equals 4 is one possible x-intercept. Or you could look at the other bracket, 2x plus 9 equals to 0, and then you solve for x. In this case, if x is -9/2, you'll also have an x-intercept. Okay, 9/2 simplifies to 4.5 as a decimal. So your two x-intercepts are 4 and 0, and -4.5 and 0 as coordinates. Okay, let's try and determine the x-intercept of this equation. Okay, y equals negative times x minus 4 times x plus 10. And we're also going to use those x-intercepts to help us determine the vertex of a parabola. So our first step here, number 1, okay, determine the x-coordinate of the vertex. So we need that x-coordinate of the vertex. And the x-coordinate of the vertex is also known as the axis of symmetry. And it's going to be the average of the x-intercepts. Okay, so let's write this down here. Determine the x-coordinate of the vertex. So this is also the axis of symmetry. Okay, and it is also the average of the two x-intercepts. Okay, why is that? So visually speaking, if you imagine here's a parabola, it's going to cross the x-axis here and here. It's the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry is that mirror line. So the distance from the x-intercept to the axis of symmetry is the same distance from here to the other x-intercept. So if I took the average, which is just basically the halfway point between these two x-intercepts, I will have the axis of symmetry. Okay. So what are the x-intercepts here? So the x-intercepts here are, let's write x-intercept. So from this bracket, if I made x equals 4, there's one x-intercept. And from this bracket, x would be -10. Okay, that's how I get my zeros, right? X minus 4 equals 0. So x equals 4 to get 0. If x plus 10 equals 0, then x has to be -10. So -10 plus 10 is 0. So those are my x-intercepts. So if I average them, so if I do 4 plus -10 and divide by 2, that's my average, okay? I will get -6/2, or I could rewrite that as -3. So my axis of symmetry is, I should say here, colon, is x equals -3. Okay. Now, step 2, to find the actual value of the vertex, you're going to substitute the axis of symmetry into the equation to find its y value, because you have the x value now, but what's the y value? Okay, the y coordinate of the vertex. Right, we'll write here the y coordinate of the vertex. Okay, so I'm going to take my equation y equals -3. Where I have x, I'm going to replace it with -3. So -3 minus 4 in one bracket, and -3 plus 10 in the other bracket. Okay, so then I have here, my apologies, there's no -3 in front, it's just negative. So just negative. Okay, so negative in the front bracket, -3 minus 4 is -7, and the other bracket, -3 plus 10 is +7. -7 times 7 is 49, times another negative there, so I'm going to have two negatives, which makes a positive, so positive 49 is the y value. So therefore, the vertex is, the x value is -3, and the y value is 49. Okay, so that is my example on how to find the vertex and how to find x-intercepts. And that ends this video.